is Rwanda a safe country? What impact does this have on human rights? There's a misconception here that the purpose of the Rwanda bill is to undermine the authority of the Supreme Court. If you like, reinterpret the Supreme Court's decision. That's actually not true. It's the complete opposite. The Rwanda bill is based on the Rwanda Treaty, which was signed in December of 2023. So the purpose of the Rwanda bill, or the Rwanda Treaty, was to actually respond constructively and intelligently to the decision made by the Supreme Court. So it's the very opposite of what the chattering classes are talking about. And it essentially addresses the human rights concerns, and the core issue here is the principle of non-refoulement. The Rwanda Treaty basically makes it impossible for the Rwandan government to deport anyone to their country of origin, to an unsafe country. So if the Rwandan authorities really do want to deport an individual, whether for security concerns or they're unimpressed by their asylum application, they have to send them back to the United Kingdom.
I just want to pick up on what you said there, Dr. Jones, because you said its purpose is not to undermine the authority of the UK Supreme Court. Yeah. But many lawyers argue that its purpose is to undermine the authority of courts across the United Kingdom, in my jurisdiction of Scotland as well as England and Wales, by taking away from them the right to assess whether Rwanda at a point in the future is in fact safe. The UK Supreme Court made its assessment at the end of last year. But this bill, I put to you, that arguably undermines the authority of all our courts in the UK because it prevents them from assessing in the future whether it is in fact the case that Rwanda is safe. And that's a factual exercise that would more normally be carried out by a court than by a government. Not right?
I think it's very much the opposite. I think, if anything, it reaffirms the authority of the Supreme Court, because the Rwanda Treaty, which James cleverly signed in December, actually addressed the specific concerns of the Supreme Court in terms of refoulement. There are also measures there related to the monitoring regime and the appeals process. So obviously the appeals court now has to have one judge from Rwanda and one from the Commonwealth. So what the treaty did is it actually changed the facts on the ground. So the purpose of the Rwanda bill is to build on the treaty and to remove any ambiguity as to the implementation of the Rwanda plan. So I would argue the opposite.
I hear you. Baroness Lawrence, I think you wanted to come in next, and we are going to have to move on to the next question.
Yeah. Dr. Jones, you were saying that during the treaty, for Rwanda to think that it can deport anybody to any other country because they signed that treaty, who's going to be there to monitor what it is that they do? Because once the refugees in Rwanda and whatever happening within the country, and they've decided, because once the people are there in the country and they've decided, well, we're going to move on and send people to X, Y, Z, but you're saying the treaty will stop them doing that. But who's there to monitor that, to make sure it doesn't happen?
Where's the monitoring?
That's a really good question. I mean, obviously we'll have people there monitoring it, but even before...
From the UK, I mean.
Yeah, of course. I mean, even before the treaty was signed by the Home Secretary, it was very, very difficult it would be very difficult for Rwanda to deport anybody to their country of origin. And this point was made in the Court of Appeal by Lord Burness. He said, most of these people have destroyed their documents. They're being sent to Rwanda with British documents. And Rwanda does not have the bilateral agreements in place to actually deport these people to their country of origin, so that it would be very difficult for them to violate the principle of non-refoulement. But now with the treaty, it's set in stone, and it's just easier for the Rwandan authorities. Are they going to, deport somebody to Iraq or Afghanistan where there may be issues there, or they can just send them back on a flight to Heathrow? It's a simple solution for them.